Like the Mayor of Montreal, like Minister Stephen Guilbeault, our Minister of Heritage, I was deeply disappointed by the vandalism that took place over the weekend. I understand the impatience, the frustration of Canadians who faced systemic discrimination and racism throughout their lives, and their concern that we act quickly on that, and their impatience, because I myself am impatient. We need to move forward quickly and in the right ways on countering systemic discrimination, and our government will do just that. But we are a country of laws, and we are a country that needs to respect those laws, even as we seek to improve and change them. And those kinds of acts of vandalism are not advancing the path towards greater justice and equality in this country. Now, we've seen following that people on either sides of the spectrum trying to use these elements as a way of furthering debates. I'm more interested in using the real frustrations that people have as motivations to continue to make the big changes necessary. We have an awful lot to do as a country, and part of it needs to have a clear eye towards the past and mistakes made by previous generations of people who built this country. But our focus needs to be on how we improve things today and for the days to come for all Canadians. And that means tackling systemic discrimination everywhere it exists, taking significant measures to make sure that Canadians are safe and aren't facing extra barriers that are inherently unfair. We have a lot of work to do, but choices like this, to rely on vandalism to advance causes, is not going to help anyone move forward the right way.
Small-scale production level, as you see here, in a small shake flask, to scale this up to bioreactor of different sizes, develop the process until we end up with the bigger production model.
So basically, the testing models, you can create smaller amounts of the vaccine than what you're looking at.
Oui.
But in order to scale it up, you have a whole different set of processes, is that it?
Yes, yeah.
Oui. Au niveau de mise à l'échelle, on part ici avec l'échantillon congelé de cellules qui vont nous permettre de pouvoir amplifier et produire. Les cellules sont utilisées comme chacune une petite manufacture pour produire soit une protéine, soit un virus, soit un anticorps. Ces cellules-là, on va les faire pousser dans des petits flacons pour faire des tests optimisés. Ensuite, on va aller dans les bioréacteurs et éventuellement vers la production à grande échelle. Ici, on voit qu'il y a un 500 litres de volume de travail à l'intérieur. Donc, on voit ici avec une personne l'échelle.
Jolie, mes collègues Rachel et Anthony Housefather, et Ian Stewart, le président du CNRC, pour annoncer un investissement majeur dans notre lutte contre la COVID-19. Cette annonce démontre que notre projet, fait au Canada, peut augmenter notre capacité de produire des vaccins dans notre pays. Nous investissons 126 millions de dollars sur 2 ans pour bâtir des installations de biofabrication ici au Centre Royalmount et 20 millions de dollars par année pour financer ces coûts d'opération. This new facility will provide a reliable domestic supply of vaccines and represents an important plank in our Made in Canada strategy. It speaks to the fact that it's a three-pronged strategy, one built on international partnerships, supporting Canadian solutions and know-how, and building up domestic biomanufacturing capacity. And by working with private sector partners, the NRC will expand the production capacity here at Royalmount to up to 2 million vaccine doses a month by the end of next summer. Avec cet investissement, le Canada se garantit une source domestique de vaccins. Le CNRC travaille avec le secteur privé pour augmenter la capacité de production au Centre Royalmount. Et elle va attendre jusqu'à 2 millions de doses par mois par la fin de l'été prochain. And the announcement today builds on work already underway here in Montreal. At the start of the pandemic, our government invested $44 million in the NRC to help upgrade its existing research facility here at Royalmount to be compliant with the global standards in vaccine manufacturing. That investment is already paying dividends, as the NRC facility here at Royalmount is now on track to produce 250,000 vaccine doses per month starting this fall. I want to thank the National Research Council, Canadian firms working to develop vaccines and therapies, and our research community who continue to put in the hard work needed to help us to get through this crisis. Merci. Je vais maintenant passer la parole au Premier ministre Justin Trudeau.
Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everyone. Je suis très heureux d'être ici au Conseil national de recherche en compagnie du ministre Baines et de mes collègues députés de Montréal, la ministre Jolie, Rachel Bendayan et notre député local, Anthony Housefather. Le président du Conseil national de recherche, Ian Stewart, est aussi parmi nous aujourd'hui. Depuis notre début, notre gouvernement lutte contre la COVID-19 en étant guidé par la science. On a donc investi plus de 1 milliard de dollars dans une stratégie contre la COVID-19 qui permet d'augmenter le dépistage et qui soutient les essais cliniques et la recherche liée aux vaccins. Si on veut protéger les Canadiens, on doit écouter les conseils des experts en santé publique et soutenir la recherche scientifique. Ce qui veut dire qu'on doit aussi soutenir nos chercheurs pendant qu'ils mettent au point un vaccin efficace. Plus tôt ce mois-ci, le ministre Baines et la ministre Anand ont annoncé les membres du groupe de travail sur le vaccin contre la COVID-19. Ce groupe comprend des spécialistes en matière de vaccins et d'immunologie, mais également des leaders de l'industrie. En se basant sur leurs conseils, on a signé des ententes avec Pfizer et Moderna pour réserver des millions de doses d'un futur vaccin contre la COVID-19. Et aujourd'hui, on franchit une autre étape. Je vous annonce que le gouvernement du Canada a signé 2 nouvelles ententes avec Novavax et Johnson & Johnson pour réserver des millions de doses du vaccin contre la COVID-19 qu'ils sont en train de mettre au point. Leurs plus récents essais de vaccins ont eu des résultats prometteurs Si l'un de ces vaccins passe le test, l'entente d'aujourd'hui fera en sorte que les Canadiens vont avoir accès aux doses nécessaires. Toutes nos ententes avec Pfizer, Moderna, Novavax et Johnson & Johnson concernant un nouveau vaccin permettront au Canada d'avoir accès à au moins 88 millions de doses et des options pour en avoir des dizaines de millions de plus. La ministre Anand et la ministre Haidu auront plus de détails à vous fournir tout à l'heure. Today, I can announce that the Government of Canada has signed 2 new agreements with Novavax and Johnson & Johnson to reserve millions of doses of the vaccines they're developing. Their most recent vaccine tests show promising results. That's why we're making sure that if one of these potential vaccines is successful, Canada and Canadians will have access to the doses they need. Taken together, our vaccine agreements with Pfizer, Moderna, Novavax, and Johnson & Johnson will give Canada at least 88 million doses, with options to attain tens of millions more. I know that Minister Anand and Minister Haidu will have more details to share at the noon briefing today. In the weeks and months ahead, our government will continue to take the steps needed to make sure Canada gets a COVID-19 vaccine as soon as possible. Once a vaccine is proven to work, we'll also need to be able to produce and distribute it here at home. On that front, I can also announce that we're investing over $126 million to expand the biomanufacturing facility right here at the National Research Council, Royal Mount. This funding will increase this facility's ability to manufacture vaccines and will strengthen the NRC's partnerships with vaccine developers. We expect the facility to be up and running by mid-2021. Au cours des prochaines semaines et des prochains mois, notre gouvernement continuera de travailler fort pour que le Canada ait un vaccin contre la COVID-19 le plus tôt possible. Lorsqu'un vaccin sera prouvé efficace, on va aussi devoir être en mesure de le fabriquer et de le distribuer ici même au pays. Là-dessus, je peux aussi vous annoncer qu'on investit plus de 126 millions de dollars dans un nouvel édifice de biofabrication au Centre de recherche en thérapeutique en santé humaine, ici même à Montréal. Ces fonds vont permettre de fabriquer des vaccins et ils vont renforcer les partenariats du Conseil national des recherches avec les producteurs de vaccins. L'édifice devrait être prêt au milieu de 2021. I want to end by recognizing that tomorrow is the 40th anniversary of Terry Fox's Marathon of Hope. Terry's courage and persistence made him a true Canadian hero and gave hope to people around the world. As we honor his legacy, let's continue to support the people and families affected by cancer and keep working together to find a cure. J'aimerais terminer en rappelant que demain, ce sera le 40e anniversaire du Marathon de l'espoir de Terry Fox. Le courage et la persévérance de Terry ont fait de lui un vrai héros canadien et ont donné de l'espoir à des gens du monde entier. Alors qu'on se souvient de son héritage, continuons de soutenir les gens et les familles touchées par le cancer et de travailler tous ensemble pour trouver un remède. Merci. Je vais maintenant prendre vos questions.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Premier ministre. On va commencer la période de questions aujourd'hui avec les journalistes présents.
Bonjour, M. Trudeau. Philippe Bonneville, 98.5 FM à Montréal. Au sujet justement du vaccin, on sait qu'il y a des essais cliniques qui progressent assez rapidement. Vous l'avez dit, les résultats sont même prometteurs dans certains cas. Nos voisins américains, Donald Trump, le président, dit et espère même avoir un vaccin disponible à très court terme. Vous, avec les informations que vous recevez quotidiennement dans vos briefings de la part des plus grands spécialistes ici au Canada, qu'est-ce que ça vous dit? Est-ce que vous pensez que c'est possible qu'un vaccin soit développé et disponible avant la fin de l'année 2020 ou si les Canadiens doivent complètement oublier ce scénario-là?
C'est certain que les plus grands chercheurs et scientifiques à travers le Canada et à travers le monde sont en train de travailler extrêmement fort pour trouver le vaccin qui fonctionnera le plus rapidement possible. Les scientifiques nous disent depuis longtemps que des vaccins, ça peut prendre des années à développer, mais On sait en même temps que des gens sont en train d'accélérer les investissements et les essais, comme nous sommes en train de faire aussi. On peut toujours espérer un vaccin bientôt, mais il faut s'assurer que ce soit la bonne, que ce soit fait de façon sécuritaire. C'est pour ça d'ailleurs que le Canada est en train de signer des ententes avec bien des différents développeurs de vaccins, bien des différentes compagnies et régions pour s'assurer que, quel que soit le vaccin qui sera développé, les Canadiens aient accès à ces doses nécessaires. Okay. It is obvious that researchers and scientists, the top Canadians and top people around the world are working extremely diligently and quickly to try and find a vaccine against COVID-19. We've heard from the beginning, many people warn us that vaccines can take, in many cases, years to develop, but obviously everyone is working as hard as they can to do it as quickly as possible. It is possible that there is a breakthrough soon that will allow us to get a vaccine more quickly, but we don't know where or if that breakthrough will come. That's why the Government of Canada has moved forward on signing agreements with a broad range of vaccine developers, of researchers around the world, so that regardless of who ends up developing the vaccine first, Canadians will have the opportunity to benefit from that vaccine. There's obviously a lot more work to go, as there are many, many different organizations and companies researching vaccines, but our focus is going to be on making sure that when a vaccine is developed, Canadians can have access to it as quickly as possible to get through and beyond this terrible virus.
Good morning, Morgan Lowry, Canadian Press. I was wondering what exactly China has said about why it couldn't honor the CanSino deal, and why would you have tried to do a vaccine partnership with a country that is holding two of our citizens hostage?
The CanSino partnership is a long-established partnership between Chinese researchers and Canadians that indeed resulted a few years ago in tremendous success in developing methods to counter Ebola. This was a well-established partnership well before COVID-19 that has been effective in the past, and we'd certainly hope that we'd be able to move forward and seeing it effective. Unfortunately, China didn't grant export permits for the vaccine to Canada, so we're continuing to focus on the many other paths that are very promising in terms of developing a vaccine. Le partenariat CanSino a été très important dans le passé, notamment contre l'Ebola, et c'était une des pistes qu'on a poursuivies dans notre désir de diversifier toutes les options pour s'assurer que quand un vaccin sera développé, les Canadiens y auraient accès. Évidemment, on était déçus quand la Chine a décidé de ne pas permettre aux vaccins d'être exportés, à la recherche d'être exportés vers le Canada, parce qu'ils n'ont pas de vaccin encore. C'est un projet en développement. Mais comme vous voyez aujourd'hui, on est en train d'avoir énormément de différentes approches pour s'assurer que quand un vaccin sera développé, les Canadiens y auront accès.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Vanessa Lee with CTV News. Why did you prorogue Parliament when you continue to make major announcements that cost billions of dollars?
I think it is extremely important that when a government takes a new direction, that Parliament have an opportunity to support that. The throne speech we gave 8 months ago had no mention of COVID-19, had no mention of rebuilding an economy devastated and Canadians disrupted by a terrible global pandemic. So we will be putting forward an ambitious and responsible vision of how to build Canada back better, how to make sure that it is countering some of the vulnerabilities that COVID-19 has demonstrated, whether it's inequities within our systems, whether it's the challenge of going greener, whether it's a challenge of fairness or of efficiency and growth. These are things that we're going to tackle with an ambitious agenda for our new Parliament. But as we take a new direction, I think it is extremely important in a democracy that parliamentarians be able to pronounce on it, particularly in a minority government situation, we shouldn't be moving forward with an ambitious, bold vision to help Canadians and build a better future without ensuring that we have the support of Parliament. And that's why prorogation and a throne speech allows exactly for that. When we return, the same week we were supposed to return originally, we will be putting the vision of this government for a better, greener, stronger Canada to a vote in the House of Commons. That is democracy in action.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
Je pense que c'est important quand un gouvernement doit prendre une nouvelle direction, doit entreprendre des nouvelles mesures qui n'avaient pas été prévues. Il y a 8 ou 9 mois, quand on a présenté notre discours du trône pour cette session parlementaire, il n'y avait aucune mention de la COVID-19, aucune mention du besoin de rebâtir l'économie canadienne, d'aider des millions de Canadiens. Évidemment, ce n'est pas un plan qui s'applique mot à mot maintenant, et donc la seule chose responsable, c'était d'annoncer qu'on va présenter un plan ambitieux pour l'avenir au Parlement, et le Parlement décidera si nous pourrions agir en tant que gouvernement pour livrer pour les Canadiens. Pour ce faire, il fallait utiliser la prorogation et un discours du trône pour mettre au test de la confiance du Parlement cette vision du gouvernement, et j'ai bien hâte à cette discussion, à ces débats.
Carla Oliveira de Radio-Canada. J'aimerais vous entendre sur des événements qui sont survenus à Montréal en fin de semaine. Il y a la statue de John A. Macdonald qui a été déboulonnée, qui a passé la nuit par terre. Il y a eu des réactions de la part de la mairesse de Montréal, de certains premiers ministres à travers le pays. J'aimerais vous entendre là-dessus. Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de tout ça et du débat que ça l'ouvre?
Okay. D'abord, je suis tout à fait d'accord avec la mairesse Plante, avec le ministre Stephen Guilbeault qui souligne que le vandalisme n'est pas une façon acceptable de faire avancer des propos de vouloir voir du changement dans la société. Je comprends qu'il y a des gens qui vivent de la discrimination systémique depuis longtemps au Québec, partout au pays. Et nous devons, en tant que société, en tant que palier de gouvernement, y adresser de façon sérieuse. Mais des actes comme celle-là n'ont pas leur place dans une société de droit. Et nous devons de comprendre et d'entendre l'impatience dans les gens qui veulent plus de changements rapidement pour éliminer cette discrimination systémique, mais nous devons de le faire de la bonne façon. Malheureusement, des deux côtés de la médaille, il y a des gens qui utilisent ça comme argument politique. La droite veulent utiliser ça à leur fin, la gauche sont en train de se défendre. Je pense que la grande partie, la grande majorité des Canadiens veulent absolument qu'on agisse de façon réelle et concrète, mais pense que ça devrait être fait sans vandalisme, et c'est exactement ce que nous allons souhaiter et travailler ensemble pour accomplir.
Bonjour, M. Trudeau. Philippe Mercure du Journal La Presse. On entend que vous pourriez avoir une ouverture à l'idée d'étendre la loi 101 aux entreprises de juridiction fédérale, comme les banques, comme les entreprises de communication. Est-ce qu'il y a vraiment une ouverture de votre côté? Est-ce qu'il faut s'attendre à des annonces bientôt?
Nous allons toujours être là pour défendre la particularité de la langue française au Québec et partout au pays. Nous allons toujours être là pour défendre nos langues officielles, particulièrement ceux qui vivent des situations minoritaires. On va toujours être ouvert à avoir des conversations avec les Canadiens sur les meilleures façons de faire cela, et les réflexions vont continuer.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Justin Ling, freelance. I'm curious to hear you respond to the lobbying commissioner reviewing communications between MCAP Vice President Rob Silver and your government. Does it worry you at all that nobody in your government thought to report these communications to the commissioner, considering this seems to be what the Lobbying Act was created for, to prevent well-connected people from lobbying for specific changes to legislation from your government, in this case the wage subsidy? Does that concern you at all?
I can assure Canadians in this case that all the rules were followed. I have full confidence in my Chief of Staff, who ensured that not only did she consult extensively with with the ethics commissioner before her husband took a role in the private sector. She went above and beyond in bringing in ethical screens to ensure that there were no improprieties. For your other questions, those are questions better suited to the company in question.
Merci.
I want to just take back my repeat my answer on the John A. Macdonald statue in English. Like the Mayor of Montreal, like Minister Stephen Guilbeault, our Minister of Heritage, I was deeply disappointed by the vandalism that took place over the weekend. I understand the impatience, the frustration of Canadians who faced systemic discrimination and racism throughout their lives, and their concern that we act quickly on that, and their impatience, because I myself am impatient. We need to move forward quickly and in the right ways on countering systemic discrimination, and our government will do just that. But we are a country of laws, and we are a country that needs to respect those laws, even as we seek to improve and change them. And those kinds of acts of vandalism are not advancing the path towards greater justice and equality in this country. Now, we've seen following that people on either sides of the spectrum trying to use these elements as a way of furthering debates. I'm more interested in using the real frustrations that people have as motivations to continue to make the big changes necessary. We have an awful lot to do as a country, and part of it needs to have a clear eye towards the past and mistakes made by previous generations of people who built this country. But our focus needs to be on how we improve things today and for the days to come for all Canadians. And that means tackling systemic discrimination everywhere it exists, taking significant measures to make sure that Canadians are safe and aren't facing extra barriers that are inherently unfair. We have a lot of work to do, but choices like this, to rely on vandalism to advance causes, is not going to help anyone move forward the right way.
Merci. On va terminer avec les journalistes au téléphone. Une question, un suivi. Opérateur, c'est à vous.
Thank you. Merci. Première question, Raymond Filion, TVA. À vous.
Merci. Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Pour revenir à la statue, est-ce que les monuments à l'honneur de John A. Macdonald ont encore, selon vous, leur place, compte tenu de certaines positions qu'il aurait eues dans le passé?
C'était notre premier ministre et il faut reconnaître le rôle qu'il a eu dans la création du pays et du monde dans lequel on vit aujourd'hui. Mais nous devons reconnaître là où il y a eu des propos ou des perspectives ou des actes inacceptables. Ça fait partie de reconnaître notre histoire. Et je pense que c'est aux différentes communautés et différentes villes de choisir comment on va se souvenir de notre histoire et des éléments de notre histoire. C'est pas à un petit groupe de décider unilatéralement qu'on ne doit pas. Il faut qu'on ait des débats informés, des conversations difficiles sur comment trouver le bon équilibre entre reconnaître les gens du passé et reconnaître leurs erreurs en même temps, tout en allant vers de l'avant. Mais on a des systèmes, on a des élus pour représenter ces décisions auprès ces décisions et ces perspectives de nos citoyens. C'est pas à des citoyens de choisir d'agir comme cela.
En suivi, Raymond?
Oui, au sujet des vaccins, 88 millions de doses, c'est le chiffre que vous avez donné tout à l'heure. On peut se demander si ce sera suffisant quand on sait que les gens ont souvent besoin de plus d'une dose d'un vaccin. Alors, est-ce que vous pouvez assurer les Canadiens qu'il y en aura assez pour immuniser tout le monde? Et est-ce que la vaccination, une fois le vaccin disponible, sera obligatoire?
On a évidemment un groupe d'experts qui sont en train d'évaluer toutes ces questions-là. Parmi les partnerships et les accords qu'on a annoncés aujourd'hui, il y en a qui prévoient une seule dose. Il y en a effectivement qui vont avoir besoin de plusieurs doses. Et on est en train de prendre en conséquence ces besoins quand on sécurise ces ententes et ces sources de vaccins. Mais comme vous savez très bien, on est en train de regarder des accords avec bien des différentes compagnies parce qu'on ne sait pas où le vaccin ultime va venir. On ne sait pas qui va le développer en premier et on a besoin d'avoir la capacité d'immuniser et de vacciner le plus grand nombre de Canadiens nécessaire. On est une population de 36 millions, donc on a besoin d'ultimement avoir assez de vaccins pour la grande partie de la population. Par rapport aux décisions, par rapport à des exigences ou des règles de vaccination, on a des experts qui vont nous conseiller là-dessus, mais on n'est pas rendu là encore dans notre délibération.
Merci beaucoup. Opérateur, prochaine question au téléphone.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Hélène Buzetti, Le Devoir. À vous.
Oui, bonjour, M. Trudeau. J'aimerais moi aussi revenir sur la question de la statue de McDonald's. Vous avez dit il faut qu'on réfléchisse, il faut voir c'est quoi la bonne façon de faire les choses. Vous, avez-vous en tête une solution particulière? Et on s'attaque à M. McDonald, mais doit-on repenser aussi nos autres premiers ministres, M. Laurier, Mackenzie King ou même Pearson, qui n'ont peut-être pas mis en place les écoles résidentielles, mais ils les ont pas abolies non plus?
Je pense qu'on peut aussi poser la question par rapport à mon père. Et je pense qu'on doit poser des questions par rapport à tout. Nos anciens premiers ministres, tous nos leaders du passé qui ont sûrement fait beaucoup de bonnes choses, mais qui aussi ont fait quelques erreurs. Et je pense qu'un pays doit s'informer de son passé, doit être conscient des choses positives et des choses négatives que tout dirigeant va avoir fait dans sa carrière et dans son impact. Je pense qu'une décision, une conversation mature parmi les Canadiens sur comment on va éduquer, informer, se souvenir de ce qui viennent devant, ce qui sont venus avant nous, c'est important. Mais en même temps, on doit être ancré dans comment on va améliorer notre société aujourd'hui et pour les journées à venir. Et je pense que de soulever une polémique divisive en détruisant des statues de façon unilatérale, de vandalisme, c'est pas la façon d'avancer en tant que société.
Et en question sur ce sujet, vous avez dit tout à l'heure que la droite et la gauche utilisent maintenant ces enjeux-là à des fins politiques. À quoi faites-vous référence? Est-ce que vous pouvez être plus précis, s'il vous plaît?
Bien, je pense qu'on voit particulièrement l'extrême droite essayer de créer des guerres de la culture et de diviser les Canadiens sur ces enjeux-là. Je pense qu'on doit reconnaître que John A. Macdonald a fait des choses très positives pour créer le Canada qu'on a aujourd'hui, mais il y a des éléments de son histoire et de ses propos et de ses actes qu'il faut regarder d'un œil beaucoup plus critique, y compris quel impact sur nos institutions peut durer aujourd'hui de choix et de perspectives du passé. C'est ça le racisme systémique, le fait que nos institutions ont été créées avec à l'intérieur d'elles-mêmes des iniquités qui, malgré les bonnes personnes qui travaillent dans ces institutions, continuent à discriminer contre certaines personnes. Ça prend un niveau de réflexion, un niveau de conversation, un niveau d'engagement responsable de tous les citoyens et de tous les gouverneurs, de tous les gouvernements, pour avoir la bonne approche. De hyper simplifier ce débat et d'essayer de créer de l'outrage ou de la déception d'un côté ou l'autre, c'est pas nécessairement la meilleure façon d'avancer de façon responsable en tant que pays où les gens s'écoutent et apprennent les uns des autres.
Merci beaucoup. Opérateur, on va prendre la dernière question au téléphone.
Thank you. Merci. Last question, Mike Lecouteur, Global National.
Prime Minister, thanks for taking our questions. The first question I have for you on vaccines, you even said yourself that specialists say that this process often takes years. Given how the process for developing these vaccines has been sped out how concerned are you that Canadians will be hesitant to get vaccinated because of the perceptions that this vaccine may have been rushed?
We have been challenged over the past many months on questions exactly like that. Questions around testing, for example, where Health Canada is being encouraged to approve far more tests than they would feel comfortable with, or move forward more quickly on certain tests than they feel comfortable with. Every step of the way, we're ensuring that the safety of Canadians is foremost. We will not see testing protocols approved until they are safe for Canadians. We will not move forward on a vaccine until we are confident that it is safe for Canadians. Other countries will make their own decisions and have already in regards to testing. Canada will always put the safety of Canadians first and foremost. And that's as true on vaccines as on everything else. We will do the necessary work so that if Canada moves forward on a vaccine and on a vaccination program, Canadians can have full confidence in their own safety as we do that.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
Je pense qu'à chaque étape, les Canadiens ont vu que la sécurité, la santé des Canadiens est toujours notre priorité. On s'est fait critiquer d'avoir été un peu plus attentionné que d'autres pays par rapport au processus d'approuver des tests de dépistage, mais on voulait à chaque étape s'assurer qu'on fasse les bonnes choses de la bonne façon pour protéger les Canadiens. Et les Canadiens peuvent être confiants que quand viendra le moment d'approuver un vaccin et de donner aux Canadiens, on va avoir fait tout le travail nécessaire pour s'assurer que c'est un vaccin sécuritaire pour les Canadiens.
Following up, Mike?
And just as a follow-up on the Cameron Ortis case, a lawsuit alleges failure by top-level RCMP for ignoring warnings about Cameron Ortis for 2 years before he was arrested. I wanted to know, are you taking any action on this? And also, what is your government doing to address concerns that Canada's trust with Five Eyes allies may have been eroded due to this Cameron Ortis case?
Obviously, we take these reports extremely seriously, and I can assure you that Minister Blair is following up on them and looking into what may have happened around this case. Secondly, I can tell you that we took immediate action when this situation came to light, to communicate with our allies, to reassure them, to inform them of what was potentially compromised, and to ensure that we continue to maintain their trust, which we have.
Merci beaucoup. C'est ce qui m'a fait la conférence de presse aujourd'hui.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Okay. Bon après-midi. Merci de vous être joints à nous. Good afternoon. Thanks everyone for being here. Today, I am joined by my colleagues, Minister Mary Ng, Minister Anita Anand, and virtually from Thunder Bay, Minister Patty Hajdu. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have constantly adapted, as we must, to address this ever-evolving crisis. We recognize the challenges Canadian businesses face today are not the same as those they faced in March. Many have now reopened. But because they are doing the right thing, and because Canadians are doing the right thing, many businesses, including small businesses, can't operate yet at full capacity. One of our first actions was to introduce the Canada Emergency Business Account, or CEBA. CEBA provides interest-free loans of up to $40,000 to eligible small businesses and not-for-profits to help cover their operating costs, including rent, utilities, insurance, and, crucially, wages. These loans are fully funded by the Government of Canada. More than 200 banks and credit unions across the country are offering them to their customers. If the loan is repaid by December 31st, 2022, 25% of it will be forgiven. That means up to $10,000 in cash for participating small businesses. We introduced this program to help ensure that small businesses facing a sharp decline or collapse in revenue would be able to weather the COVID storm and bounce back afterwards. And I'm happy to report that as of August 27th, more than 730,000 CEBA loans have been approved, amounting to more than $29 billion for eligible businesses. Aujourd'hui, nous annonçons que la date limite pour la soumission des demandes en vertu du programme de CEC sera rapportée au 31 octobre 2020. Cela donne aux entreprises 2 mois supplémentaires pour demander une prête de CEC qui les aidera à traverser cette période difficile et, espérons-le, à en sortir plus forte. Pour faire une demande dans le cadre du compte d'urgence pour les entreprises canadiennes, les entreprises doivent communiquer avec leur institution financière. Les entreprises peuvent également consulter le site web canada.ca pour en savoir plus sur la procédure de demande de prêt. Plus important encore, j'annonce aujourd'hui que nous travaillons avec les institutions financières pour mettre ce programme à la disposition de certaines entreprises qui n'ont pas pu se qualifier jusqu'à présent. Cela comprend plus particulièrement les entreprises qui effectuaient des transactions à partir d'un compte personnel. Je tiens à souligner que les entreprises qui présentent des demandes devront toujours répondre à tous les critères d'admissibilité existants. Plus de détails sur ces changements seront publiés prochainement, y compris un nouveau processus pour l'ouverture d'un compte d'entreprise par lequel les entreprises admissibles pourront faire une demande. Nous faisons avancer les choses aussi rapidement que possible avec les institutions financières. Nous avons écouté les petites entreprises et nous agissons en conséquence. Today, we are announcing that the CEBA application deadline will be extended to October 31st, 2020. This gives businesses 2 extra months to apply for a CEBA loan to help them get through this difficult time and ultimately to emerge stronger. To apply for the Canada Emergency Business Account, CEBA, businesses should contact their main financial institution. Businesses can also visit canada.ca to learn how to apply. Crucially, today, together with my colleagues, I'm announcing that we are working with financial institutions to make this program available to some businesses that have been unable to qualify to date. This specifically includes businesses that have been operating using a personal account. I want to stress that applying businesses will still need to meet all the existing eligibility criteria. More details on these changes will be released very soon, including a new business account opening process through which qualifying businesses will be able to apply for CEBA. We are moving as expeditiously as possible with financial institutions. We've listened to small businesses, we have heard what you need, and we're acting. I'm also announcing today that we are extending the Business Credit Availability Program to June 2021. BCAP offers loans and guarantees to ensure businesses get the credit they need to keep operating and, importantly, to keep their employees on the payroll. Export Development Canada and the Business Development Bank of Canada will continue to work with lenders to support access to capital for Canadian businesses in every sector and region of Canada as they gradually and safely get back to work. J'annonce également aujourd'hui que nous prolongeons le programme de crédit aux entreprises jusqu'en juin 2021. Le PCE offre des prêts et des garanties pour permettre aux entreprises d'obtenir le crédit dont elles ont besoin pour continuer à fonctionner et maintenir leurs employés en poste. Exportation et Développement Canada et la Banque de développement du Canada continueront de collaborer avec les prêteurs pour soutenir l'accès au capital des entreprises canadiennes dans tous les secteurs industriels et dans toutes les régions du Canada, à mesure qu'elles redémarrent leurs activités d'une manière progressive et sécuritaire. Our government stands by and will support Canadian businesses through this difficult time. Small business is at the heart of the Canadian economy and of our communities. Your success is critical to the safe and sustainable restart of our economy. And we know that our fight against the coronavirus is not over and that these are very unpredictable times for Canadian businesses as a result. As we move ahead, we must and we will adapt our government programs as needed. We are committed to supporting small businesses and to listening to small businesses to hear exactly what it is you need. We will do whatever it takes to keep Canadians and the businesses on which our jobs, our livelihoods depend, healthy and solvent, so that together we can emerge from this crisis stronger than ever. Okay, now we will also hear from our Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion and International Trade, my colleague, Mary Ng. After that, we're going to hear from the Minister of Public Services and Procurement, Anita Anand, and by video link, our Minister of Health, Patty Hajdu. So Mary, over to you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Prime Minister. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. As always, I want to begin by speaking directly to our business owners and our entrepreneurs. And I know this has not been an easy time for you, and yet through all of it, you have shown resilience and patience. You've made incredible sacrifices through worry and in the face of the unknown, temporarily closing your doors to keep more Canadians safe and adapting your business models to keep as many employees on the payroll as you possibly can. You've created the tools to help our frontline healthcare workers take care of more patients safely. You've donated meals to the ones who are on the front line. You've shifted your businesses online. You've come up with creative solutions through these uncertain times to meet the needs of your customers. Vous êtes au cœur de nos communautés et le moteur de notre économie. I'm listening to you. We are all listening to you, and we are working hard to create the kinds of supports you need now and those that you're going to need on the road to recovery. From the very beginning of this pandemic, we heard that you needed help with liquidity and with cash flow. And over the last few months, we've brought in a wide range of lending supports, including the $40,000 interest-free CEBA loan that the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister just spoke about. We have seen over 730,000 business owners benefit from this so far, including many sole proprietors and business owners who depend on contractors, but we know that there are more business owners and entrepreneurs who will still need our help. So we've been listening, and we know that this support is going to be crucial for small business owners as we begin to rebuild our economy. That is why today we are extending the support through to the end of October. And then to help our larger businesses with higher operating expenses, on the same road to this recovery, we, of course, created the Business Credit Availability Program, or otherwise known as BCAP. These are loans that go up to $12.5 million, and for mid-market businesses, loans that go up to $60 million. And today, as you heard from the Deputy Prime Minister, we're announcing that these loans, which also are available through your financial institutions, are being extended through to the end of June of 2021. And for small business owners and entrepreneurs who are operating out of their personal bank accounts as opposed to business accounts, we're working closely with the over 200 financial institutions from across the country to make sure that you get the support, and we'll give you those details in the coming days. Nous avons parcouru un long chemin et nous avons de quoi être fiers en tant que pays, en tant qu'équipe, Canada. But for Canada to truly lead in the post-COVID world, we will continue to support you, our business owners across the country, as we rebuild. This is going to be crucial. This has not been easy, I know that, and the road to recovery is going to take just as much grit and resilience from all of us, and certainly from our small businesses whom I've had the pleasure of speaking with, working with from coast to coast to coast. And as we continue to rebuild and to recover, I want you to know that we're going to continue to listen, and we will continue to work with you. We will continue to take the bold action that is needed to support you on this road to recovery every step of the way. As we've been saying all along, we are going to continue to have your back. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary. And now we will hear from our Minister of Procurement, Anita Nant. Anita, please.
Thank you so much, Christia. Alors que la fête du travail approche et que les parents, les enseignants, le personnel du secteur de l'éducation vivent un retour à l'école sans précédent, nous réalisons à quel point le COVID-19 a affecté nos vies. J'apprécie sincèrement les efforts déployés par les travailleurs de première ligne dans les domaines de la santé et des services essentiels. C'est inspirant de voir autant de Canadiennes et de Canadiens faire leur part en travaillant ensemble dans la lutte contre la COVID-19. Today, I'd like to discuss our vaccine strategy and vaccine procurement. Acting on the advice of the government's COVID-19 Vaccine Task Force and Health Canada officials, we continue to persevere to ensure that Canadians will be well placed as soon as a safe and effective vaccine becomes available. Our strategy is to secure agreements with numerous developers of vaccine candidates so that Canadians are well positioned as clinical trials advance among these developers. Diversification in our vaccine contracts and in our supply is crucial. It is important to take a moment to highlight the complexity of the environment in which this vaccine procurement is occurring. Concluding these contracts is not simply a matter of distributing a standard form contract and having vaccine suppliers simply agree to our preferred terms. The environment is intense. The demand is high, and each negotiation is unique. We must take into account the science as well as the doses, price, manufacturing, and finishing parameters of each vaccine. What this means is that we are announcing the agreements and the details of these agreements separately. We have been and continue to act aggressively with tenacity and determination in order to be able to make announcements about our vaccine procurements. Our efforts are producing results. We are investing in a diverse portfolio of vaccines to ensure that as the science progresses, Canadians have access to a safe, effective, and proven vaccine. Recently, I announced the Government of Canada's agreements with Moderna and Pfizer to acquire their respective vaccine candidates. Specifically, the agreement with Moderna gives Canada access to up to 56 million doses of the vaccine. And the agreement with Pfizer provides access to a minimum of 20 million doses, and we are in advanced negotiation with Pfizer to add options for more. Today, I am pleased to announce that Canada is adding to its portfolio of potential vaccines through the signing of agreements with Johnson & Johnson and Novavax. The agreement with Johnson & Johnson will provide Canada with up to 38 million doses of its vaccine. The agreement with Novavax adds up to 76 million doses. Aujourd'hui, j'annonce que le Canada fait un ajout à sa gamme de vaccins potentiels grâce à la signature d'entente avec les compagnies Johnson & Johnson et Novavax. L'entente conclue avec Johnson & Johnson nous donnera accès à un nombre de doses pouvant aller jusqu'à 38 millions. L'entente conclue avec Novavax nous procure 76 millions de doses supplémentaires. Notez bien, all vaccine candidates must undergo successful clinical trials and receive Health Canada authorization prior to being distributed to Canadians. We now have access to 4 potential vaccines and have secured a guaranteed minimum of 88 million doses, with options for an additional 102 million doses at Canada's discretion for a total of 190 million doses. Canada is actively pursuing additional vaccine candidates, and I will be back to you and to all Canadians with more details on these additional contracts in the coming weeks. Our government has remained proactive so that we are prepared to protect Canadians who choose to be vaccinated. Now, in addition to the vaccine candidates themselves, we are also procuring supplies that will be needed in the manufacturing and packaging stages of vaccine production in Canada. This includes the materials needed to support safe and effective immunization, such as syringes, needles, and alcohol swabs. Also, today, I am pleased to announce that we have procured 3 fill and finish vaccine systems from VanRx, based in Burnaby, British Columbia. These systems are the last portion of a vaccine production line, which allows vials to be filled and finished without human intervention, thus allowing a rapid rollout of vaccines while minimizing waste. In short, when a vaccine is ready, Canada will be ready. Bien entendu, cela ne constitue pas la fin de notre travail au-delà du développement continu, des essais ainsi que de la fabrication et de la distribution de millions de doses à travers le pays. Ces vaccins devront également recevoir l'approbation réglementaire de la part de Santé Canada. Ces étapes prendront du temps, mais elles veilleront à ce qu'un vaccin sécurité et efficace soit accessible à toute la population canadienne. In closing, Today's announcement about additional vaccine procurements is yet another critical step in Canada's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, placing Canadians at the front of the line for a vaccine. Les Canadiennes et les Canadiens peuvent être assurés que nous continuerons de faire tout notre possible pour les garder en santé et en sécurité. Je continuerai de vous garder au courant de nos progrès à mesure que nous allons de l'avant. Nous devons, pour le bénéfice de toutes les Canadiennes et Canadiens, explorer toutes les possibilités pour les vaccins et c'est exactement ce que nous continuerons de faire. We owe it to Canadians to explore every option for vaccines, and that is exactly what we will continue to do. I will now turn to my colleague, Minister Hajdu, who will tell you more about the way forward. Merci beaucoup, Megwetch. Thank you.
Take it away, Patty.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and Minister Anand, Deputy Prime Minister. Well, listen, with the progress that we're making on procurement, which I am so grateful to my colleagues for their hard work, today I'd like to speak about the importance of vaccination. We know that vaccination is the most effective way to prevent the spread of infectious diseases, whether it's childhood illnesses, seasonal flu, or a new virus like COVID-19. And despite vaccines saving lives worldwide, we also know that some people worry about the safety and effectiveness of vaccines, especially when it comes to new vaccines. So I want to be very clear. Health Canada will not authorize a vaccine unless scientific evidence demonstrates that it is safe and effective. Before any vaccine is authorized for use in Canada, it is subject to thorough assessment by Health Canada, and this will not change for COVID-19 vaccine. Now, typically, vaccine development takes several years because of the complexity and the significant investments that are required, both from a financial perspective, but also from a time perspective. However, in the response to COVID-19, we're seeing global vaccine candidates being developed at an unprecedented speed. And significant resources and investments have been made globally to mobilize key resources and respond to the urgent need that we see worldwide. But even in this accelerated environment, Health Canada officials are working around the clock to ensure Canada is well prepared once a safe and effective vaccine becomes available. Our team is working incredibly hard to make sure that all potential vaccines or treatments for COVID-19 will be safe and effective before they become available in Canada. So I'm going to conclude today by repeating just how important it is for all of us to do our part while others are working on potential COVID-19 vaccines. You can play a role by keeping your vaccines up to date, making sure that you get the seasonal flu shot when it becomes available later this fall. Vaccines don't only protect you and your family, but they also protect people around us that might be vulnerable. And these collective actions are key to protecting the health of our communities and our families and reducing the burden on our healthcare system. If you have questions about vaccines, I encourage you to seek out reliable and trusted information from reputable sources, including your family doctors, local public health units, or by visiting Health Canada's website. We will always be there to ensure you have the information you need to keep your family and your community safe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Patty. Et nous sommes maintenant prêts à répondre à vos questions.
Thank you. Merci. Please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. S'il vous plaît, appuyez sur étoile 1 maintenant pour poser une question. Please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Veuillez s'il vous plaît vous limiter à une question et à une sous-question. There will be a brief pause for the participants to register for questions. Il y aura un délai vous permettant de vous enregistrer dans la file d'attente pour la période de questions. Thank you for your patience. Merci de patienter. Our first question is from Mia Rabson from the Canadian Press. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Hi, my first question is for Minister Freeland. The announcement today of the extension of CEBA, or the application through CEBA, it sounds like small businesses are happy to hear that, but they are anxious to know if there's going to be any changes made to the rent relief program, if it will be extended or if it will be expanded in any way. I'm wondering if you could speak to that at all.
Okay, I'll make a few comments, and then I think Mary might have a few things to say also. We are very aware that rent is an important fixed cost facing Canadian businesses, Canadian small businesses. Rent in general and the CECRA program in particular is something that I have been discussing very intensively with provincial finance ministers over the past few days. And we're really aware, as Mary and I said in our comments, that there are a lot of small businesses across the country that are doing the right thing, and a lot of Canadians who are doing the right thing. And what that means is there are a lot of small businesses who simply can't operate at 100% capacity right now, but many of their costs are still at 100%. We know that poses a real challenge. We are committed to finding ways to support them, to finding ways for them to have a bridge to the time when we have definitively vanquished the coronavirus. And we're working very, very hard and very urgently on that. Mary, do you want to add anything?
Yes, thank you so much, Christia. And to those businesses out there who need this support, I want to assure you that we have been listening to you, and we're working diligently and hard to get the support to you that you need. And I know that today is the end of the month, and I know that there are many businesses out there who are anxiously awaiting for a response from us. And I just want to assure you, we're absolutely working on that. And as Christia said, nothing is more important than to help you bridge through this very difficult period. We have done that. What you've seen the government do is adapt, and to adapt by listening to what businesses have been telling us. And on this program, absolutely, we have heard from our businesses and from our entrepreneurs, and know that we are well working on a solution.
Yeah, and I would just like to add, speaking directly to landlords, we would also really like you to see you step up and play your part. The whole Canadian economy, the whole economic ecosystem is going to do better if we can all work together, landlords, provinces, the federal government, to keep our small businesses going.
And my second question, I think, is for Minister Heidi. You talked about the need to convince Canadians of the safety of vaccines. I'm wondering when your government will be making a decision about the vaccine being mandatory, and what factors are going into that decision?
Well, let's be clear. No vaccines are mandatory, federally mandated to be used in Canada, and COVID-19 vaccine would be no different. In fact, there are some rules around, for example, school admissions provincially for children to be vaccinated for common childhood diseases. There are always exceptions to those rules, which are carefully managed by each jurisdiction. We believe that people have a choice in Canada about whether or not to be vaccinated, but we also believe that we have an important responsibility as Canadians to take vaccinations to protect our communities. And we also know that there are circumstances where people cannot receive vaccines because of a variety of underlying health conditions, for example, or other circumstances. So our job at the federal government is to make sure through the collaborative work of all ministers that we have access to effective vaccines, and that we continually work with Canadians to ensure that they feel comfortable and safe receiving those vaccines.
Thank you. Merci. Our next question is from Hélène Bigetti from Le Devoir. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Oui, bonjour. Ma question est pour la ministre Anand. Vous m'excuserez si ce sont des questions évidentes, mais je ne couvre pas ça souvent. Donc, c'est concernant votre entente signée aujourd'hui là, sur les vaccins. Je voulais savoir, faut-il que le gouvernement paye pour bloquer ou comme ça réserver des vaccins auprès d'une compagnie? Vous dites aussi que vous signez des ententes avec plusieurs compagnies pour s'assurer que l'une d'entre elles arrive avec le vaccin. Mais si c'est la compagnie 1, par exemple, qui développe, qu'arrive-t-il avec nos contrats avec les compagnies 2, 3 et 4? Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour la question. Je voudrais commencer avec notre stratégie. Notre stratégie est d'avoir plusieurs contrats avec plusieurs fournisseurs pour assurer les Canadiens que quand un vaccin va être développé, nous avons l'accès de ce vaccin. Donc, dans les contrats, nous avons un base nombre de doses et ensuite aussi des options dans tous les contrats pour acheter des autres doses. Parce que maintenant, nous ne savons pas quel vaccin va être réussir. Donc, c'est important d'avoir plusieurs options pour les Canadiens, Canadiennes.
Oui, vous n'avez pas vraiment répondu à ma question. Je vous demandais s'il faut payer pour bloquer ces vaccins et qu'est-ce qui arrive avec les contrats avec les compagnies qui n'auront pas été choisies. C'était ça ma question.
Non, il y a des détails que j'ai déjà donnés à vous aujourd'hui, mais nous sommes en négociation avec des autres fournisseurs aujourd'hui et dans les semaines prochaines. Donc, ce n'est pas prudent pour moi de expliquer tous les détails aujourd'hui, mais la prochaine fois que je vais vous parler, j'espère que je peux vous donner ces détails aussi.
Thank you. Merci. Our next question is from Wency Leon with the Globe and Mail. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Oh, hi there. I was wondering if you might be able to clarify, with the agreements with the for candidate vaccine suppliers, what role would Canada have in the production of the vaccines from these suppliers?
Thank you so much. It's a very good question. Of course, the procurement of a vaccine involves the production and the distribution as well of a vaccine. And in our negotiations, as I mentioned, with several suppliers, the production aspect of the vaccine does take place in countries outside of Canada of the vaccines that I have mentioned so far. However, you will note that today the Prime Minister and Minister Baines announced that we will be funding additional money with the National Research Council in Montreal, and we will invest $100 million over 2 years to build the new facility there. So the government is taking production in Canada very seriously, as this announcement made today indicates. And in addition, you will note also that we have contributed $600 million plus to furthering research in Canada. And so it's very important to remember that the Canadian angle of vaccine production and procurement has not left our minds, that we need to make sure, just as we did with PPE, that there is a Canadian answer here. And so we are pursuing numerous procurement strategies with numerous suppliers at the same time to make sure that Canadians are well placed when a vaccine is found.
Thank you. Merci. Our next question is from Geneviève Norman with Radio-Canada. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Yes, thanks for taking my question. And it's going to be on a very different topic. My question is for Minister Ng. And the topic is the lobster industry in Atlantic Canada, because the U.S. administration has launched a trade investigation to assess the impact of Canada's lobster exports on the U.S. industry. So I was wondering how concerned is the government of Canada into this new investigation that has just been launched?
Thank you for that question. And we, of course, are aware of the investigation, and we will keep a close eye monitoring the developments. I can assure the lobster industry we will be doing that. But it was just a couple of short weeks ago on my virtual tour to Atlantic Canada that I had an opportunity to meet with the lobster industry. And in our conversation, we talked about a range of issues, one of which is the access to the market in CETA that the lobster industry, but frankly, all Canadians have greater access to about 500 million new customers through the CETA. And it's great that I get to sit here next to the Deputy Prime Minister and the Finance Minister who had a little something to do with that agreement. But suffice it to say that we will always defend our Canadian industries, our businesses, and certainly the lobster industry can count on our government to keep working for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci. Our next question is from Mike Lécouteur with the Global National News. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Hi, my first question is for Minister Anand. I just wanted to know, you mentioned how difficult it is in these negotiations. We also learned that we lost out on the CanSino deal. What can you say to Canadians, though, to reassure them that we won't be at the back of the line for a vaccine, seeing as how a number of other countries have already announced these types of agreements, and the agreement that was announced today, one of them anyways, is of a stage 2 vaccine, where others are already, much further ahead at stage 3.
I want to begin by indicating that the 4 vaccine procurement contracts that we have announced to date are significant in that they ensure that Canada is going to have access to millions of doses of vaccines when they are developed. Of course, as you suggest, each vaccine company is undergoing its own stages of clinical
effective in bringing the pandemic under control.
Negotiated in other countries does not mean that the delivery dates in our contracts are negated. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We've been very aggressive about delivery dates in our contracts. We've been very aggressive about the need to get these vaccines to Canada when they are discovered. And we will continue to work with our suppliers, with whom we have a very strong relationship, to make sure that delivery occurs when a vaccine is developed.
So one company that you have not yet made an agreement with is AstraZeneca, which is working with the Oxford University vaccine, which many experts consider to be sort of the most promising and certainly most advanced at this point. I understand you are in talks with AstraZeneca. Can you give any sense as to where that stands? And again, I mean, AstraZeneca is saying that they hope, if the vaccine passes phase 3 trials and gets approved, that they hope to be able to start, delivering vaccine as early as the end of this year. Where does Canada stand with that vaccine candidate, and how soon might we have access to that?
Okay, well, thank you so much for that specific question. I will say that on a general level, we are continuing negotiations with a number of additional leading vaccine developers to ensure that Canadians have access to a safe and effective and proven vaccine candidate, and that no vaccine will be made available until Health Canada approval has occurred. In terms of AstraZeneca, I spoke with them on Friday morning, just that recently, and have been speaking with them regularly. We are in the final stages of our negotiations with that company, and we hope to have more to say in the future. I will say that it's very important, though, to remember that there is no silver bullet to a vaccine candidate. We must make sure to procure from multiple suppliers to ensure that Canadians have access to the ultimate successful vaccine candidate.
Thank you. Merci. There are no further questions registered at this time. Nous n'avons plus de questions pour le moment. This concludes today's conference. Please disconnect your lines at this time, and we thank you.